Hey you guys, I forgot that I did not finish my edits with this video last week, and thanks to Martine Reed who commented on this video today. This is how I found out from her comment, was that acting DNI Grinnell's old client from Moldova was just indicted on money laundering charges per Eric Garland's tweets. And so I decided I need to put this up so you guys know what this backstory is. This is fascinating, and a big thanks to Martine. Eric. Ha 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 ha. The client of faux DNI Rick Grinnell, Eastern European oligarch Blautenek, goes down on massive criminal charges. He quotes Jay Coleman. Moldova's prosecutor general said on Monday that one of the country's richest people, Vladimir had been charged with involvement in the theft of $1 billion from Moldovan banks in 2014 to 2015, unquote. Eric. Note to non-NatSec Intel people. If you have a clearance and your old client, a foreign mob oligarch, goes down for money laundering in Russia's backyard, you probably have to update your SF-86. Eric. And so now Moldova wants Platnik extradited from the United States. Will we oblige? Because it's the DOJ that needs to coordinate this. Moldova seeks Platnik's extradition from U.S. over theft charges. The General Prosecutor's Office said it was charging the fugitive tycoon Vlad Platnik with the theft of $100 million US from, by BalkanInsight.com. Eric. Hell, even Mike Pompeo thought this Platnik cat was dodgy. Secretary Pompeo. Vladimir P's corrupt actions undermine the rule of law and severely compromise the independence of democratic institutions in #Moldova. Today, I publicly designate him. The U.S. stands with Moldova in its fight against corruption. Now, back to the original reading of Eric's tweets from last week. I hope you enjoy. Time for some Eric Garland. As you guys know, I'm a fan of Eric Garland. I have been a fan of his for some years. I remember way back in the day when he only had a couple thousand followers. He's really grown over time. His work has been published in major publications, and I find that the work that I do, his insights, his work, my brain, my research just blends well with it. I don't have to figure a whole lot of stuff out. He adds some humor. He gets to the points of the most important key points and the reality of what we're facing. So we have a little humor. We have really great insights. And because he's a futurist, he always outlines the big picture. So I like these tweets because it's a quick summary. He does it better than anyone else. He writes, I've been reading 6,000 pages of House Intel transcripts. It's adorable the shills are protecting Mike Flynn because you could start with any of the campaign and find Russian collusion. Manafort worked for Putin's guy in Ukraine. Caputo worked for Oleg Deripaska. Papadopoulos is setting up a Trump-Putin meeting during the campaign. Carter Page is the world's dumbest spy, but in Russia, blathering. Roger Stone is coordinating WikiLeaks, Russian intel. Russian mob oligarchs helped finance the effing inauguration. They admit on transition emails that Putin gave them the win. Kushner met with one of Putin's sanctioned bankers after the election, and yet they want to go down over a minor charge on Flynn that he pleaded to. What a sight for sore eyes, this tweet by @US Navy CNO. Yesterday, I saw an article, news publication, that at no other time in history, since I don't know when, has Russia submarines occupied so much of the sea. Their presence has been everywhere. at U.S. Navy CNO yesterday tweeted, "In case you missed it, the U.S. Navy has 6 carriers underway right now. Truman, Eisenhower, Reagan, Nimitz, Lincoln, and Ford all operating where ships belong, at sea. We are a hashtag force to be reckoned with. At U.S. Pacific Fleet, at U.S. Fleet Forces, at U.S. Fifth Fleet, at U.S. Navy Europe." Okay, last thread by Eric Garland. This was from May 3rd. He quotes Richard Grinnell on May 3rd. Grinnell tweets, "Hey Greg, let's debate without calling people traitors or Russian operatives. I love America. I'm absolutely focused on ensuring intelligence isn't politicized from the inside or on the outside." In which Eric Garland says, "Okay, Mr. Grinnell, you don't want name calling like Russian operatives. Fair. Let's talk about an acting DNI getting paid by a Hungarian organization and a Moldovan oligarch then." Thursday, out of nowhere, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, under you, puts out a press release seeming to absolve China's Wuhan lab of direct implication in COVID-19. It is not accompanied by any declassified work product from the USIC. Because on April 30th, Eric tweeted, "Something else is weird here besides the fact that ODNI doesn't release intelligence assessments via press release. Quote, not man-made or genetically modified," end quote. That's not specific enough. Eric, see, we now know that the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, the US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, was disseminating a real report to media about the Wuhan lab's role in cultivating deadly coronaviruses. And then your office put this out, April 30th. "If China released the equivalent of a weapon of mass destruction, accidentally or not, and or intentionally allowed it to kill millions, this will become a crisis of historic proportions. A cheap press release would not be thrown into public like this." Eric, it would seem that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence might get wind that America's 4 closest intel allies had a dossier that sounded completely different than what ODNI tried to claim via press release. So there are questions. From the Daily Telegraph, bombshell dossier lays out coronavirus case against China. Eric, how could ODNI not be aware that all 5 of the Five Eye nations were working feverishly to get the word out about China's malign role in allowing, at best, COVID-19 to become a global crisis? And why would it front-run that story with a softer narrative just before release? Eric, we've decided, Mr. Grinnell, honoring your rules here, that we won't cheaply use the term Russian operative. But surely we can refer to, quote, unregistered agents of a foreign power, end quote, which of course is a felony in many cases. Eric, so let's discuss, Mr. Grinnell, your direct unregistered work for pro-Putin Viktor Orban of Hungary, and then move to what's been reported and looks like work for Moldovan oligarch Vladimir Platuniak. Deal? Okay. Key senator says Richard Grinnell may have misled Congress. Eric, pro-Putin Viktor Orban's government has been using paid agents who registered in the Foreign Acts Registration Act database, who then paid your firm Capital Media Partners. The government of Hungary refusing to tell how it spent $7 million in the United States. Eric, Joanne Barnhart forms the Magyar Foundation of North America under an LLC that registers FARA for Hungary, and they pay your company in 2016, Mr. Grinnell, $100,000 or so. I do so hope that made it to your SF-86 for this job, sir. They're sticklers, you know. Eric, the quote in that ProPublica story about your work for Hungary and informally question, platonic is ironic. Craig Engel, a lawyer for Grinnell, said Grinnell did not have to register under FARA because, quote, he was not working at the direction of a foreign power, end quote. Trump's new spy chief used to work for a foreign politician in the United States by ProPublica. Eric, this Engel comment at Richard Grinnell is especially ironic because 1. Engel registered FARA for Costa Rica. 2. Engel is on the board of Magyar, Foundation of North America, but not registered for Hungary. 3. His view on FARA was outdated back in 2016. Craig Engel, an attorney with the law firm Agent Fox, said he was responding to ProPublica's questions on Grinnell's behalf. Engel declined to say what Grinnell paid consulting work involved, but said he did not have to register under FARA because he was not working at the direction of a foreign government. Eric, Mike Flynn's old firm, Covington Burling, did a great explainer about how FARA prosecutions were updated in September 2016. I'd definitely have a look. Eric, now here at Richard Grinnell is where I have big questions. Given the relationship between Hungary and China, isn't being on Orban's payroll a problem when then reporting on Chinese matters as Director of National Intelligence for the U.S.? Hungary to keep details of Beijing-funded rail link secret. Why would Orban need to keep his deal for the first Chinese-funded European railway classified? This was from last month. Hungary plans to classify information concerning its largest ever infrastructure project, a C-3 billion backed rail modernization, a move critics said shows that Prime Minister Viktor Orban is taking advantage of the coronavirus crisis to push his own agenda. Details of the 350-kilometer Beijing-funded high-speed rail link between Budapest and the Serbian capital Belgrade will be classified for 10 years, according to draft legislation submitted to the Hungarian parliament on Thursday. The draft legislation seeks to classify all construction contracts on the grounds that their publication could, quote, threaten Hungary's ability to pursue its foreign policy and trade interests without undue external influence, end quote. Eric, anyhow, no need to use term like Russian operative, which Greg Lear never used. We can just ask questions about a director of national intelligence paid by partners to Beijing during a crisis about Beijing. But if anyone wants to get to the relationship between certain Moldovans, money laundering, Russia, etc., it ain't too hard.